Matthew chapter 2. After Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea in the time of King Herod, wise men from the east came to Jerusalem saying, "Where is the one who was born King of the Jews? For we saw his star when it rose and have come to worship him." When King Herod heard this, he was alarmed, and all Jerusalem with him. After assembling all the chief priests and the experts in the law, he asked them where the Christ was to be born. "In Bethlehem of Judea," they said, "for it is written this way by the prophet, 'And you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are in no way least among the rulers of Judah, for out of you will come a ruler who will shepherd my people.'" Then Herod privately summoned the wise men and determined from them when the star had appeared. He sent them to Bethlehem and said, "Go and look carefully for the child. When you find him, inform me, so that I can go and worship him as well." After listening to the king, they left, and once again the star they saw when it rose led them until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw the star, they shouted joyfully. As they came into the house and saw the child with Mary his mother, they bowed down and worshipped him. They opened their treasure boxes and gave him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. After being warned in a dream not to return to Herod, they went back by another route to their own country. After they had gone, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream and said, "Get up, take the child and his mother, and flee to Egypt, and stay there until I tell you, for Herod is going to look for the child to kill him." Then he got up, took the child and his mother during the night, and went to Egypt. He stayed there until Herod died. In this way, what was spoken by the Lord through the prophets was fulfilled. "I called my son out of Egypt." When Herod saw that he had been tricked by the wise men, he became enraged. He sent men to kill all the children in Bethlehem and throughout the surrounding region, from the age of 2 and under, according to the time he had learned from the wise men. Then what was spoken by Jeremiah the prophet was fulfilled. A voice was heard in Ramah, weeping and loud wailing, Rachel weeping for her children. She did not want to be comforted because they were gone. After Herod had died, an angel of the Lord appeared in a dream to Joseph in Egypt, saying, "Get up, take the child and his mother, and go to the land of Israel, for those who were seeking the child's life are dead." So he got up, he took the child and his mother, and returned to the land of Israel. But when he heard that Archelaus was reigning over Judea in place of his father Herod, he was afraid to go there. After being warned in a dream, he went to the region of Galilee. He went to a town called Nazareth and lived there. Then what had been spoken by the prophet was fulfilled, that Jesus would be called a Nazarene. All right, so there we go. There is chapter 2. Bum, bum, bum. Okay, so interesting stuff going on here. This is where we get into, is this right? Is this wrong? What do we have? I mean, when we start getting into the genealogy, or not genealogy, we start getting into the here's what's happening and here's when it's happening. We start having all these debates about what do other historians say and record. Are the people that are actually mentioned in place when these things could happen? And we start deciding, hey, is Christmas actually the date of Jesus' birth or not the date of Jesus' birth? What in the world is up with January 6th? If you don't know that, that is the day called Epiphany, and it's part of the story here of when the wise men would have shown up, the epiphany of revealing who he was. And how would these wise men have known any of this? Well, the thought is they're coming from the east. that in some way, when exile happened and Daniel and his friends, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, are in there serving the Babylonian king, and later the king, Darius, the Medes and the Persians, that they would have left knowledge of their worship and copies of their scripture, and that it is some descendants of that school of wisdom, consultants, that are studying the skies, and they discover this is fulfillment of something. It also could be a lot simpler than that. If you want to go check out the possibilities of what it could have looked like, and I'm not saying this is a definitive one, but you can go to Bethlehem Star and go and look that up, and they trace through events in the sky with the king star, the king planet aligning in the lion, and then aligning under Virgo. And so you've got the king star, the king planet doing an alignment, doing a retrograde, and then also having the Lion of Judah, which would then signal, it is a king of Judah, would be the way they could have got this from reading the stars. So there's a lot of those things. And then how could it have moved over the house? Well, if it's in retrograde, they go through the what would you have seen from Babylon, what would you have seen from Jerusalem, and they time it out. And there's some of those things. How do we get to the date of December 25th? It goes potentially Tertullian. 2nd century is one of the first to try to calculate that out. And there was the thinking that significant things happen on the same day. So your conception day and your death day would have been in alignment potentially. So when you figure and calculate out Jesus' death, which he calculates as March 25, and then you move it forward from conception, not only his death date, but his conception date, 9 months, you get to December 25. And that is one of the first ways of trying to date when Jesus' birth is going to be. It is not based on the Roman Saturnella, and I've watched other people who've done all the documentation on it. I don't have that in front of me, where the earliest writings talking about the Christians celebrating Christmas are going to be from 2nd century, and Saturnella doesn't start until 3rd century, at least the sources we have. So it seems more likely that Saturnella was co-opting the Christian practice of Christmas, that after the Roman Empire makes Christianity the official religion and it becomes more prominent, there is a push back against it from those that want to return to the old ways, and so you kind of have some co-opting going there, but not in the way that you probably heard. All right, let me get caught up on anything in the chat and anything else I forgot in there. Let me know. Okay, bum. Lou says, yesterday the pastor read the part of Joseph's dreams until Rachel crying for her children. Yeah. Oh, that's another thing. Thank you for mentioning that. That got me thinking. So, there's a couple of things that the authors and the New Testament are going to do, and it is going to be playing off of characters. So Jesus is the new Moses. So one of the things that happens is Moses, as an infant, had the king going after and killing all of the young children, and Jesus, the king, goes after him to kill all of the children. After the death of the king, Moses can return to his people. After the death of Herod, Jesus, through Joseph and Mary, can return to his people. So you have a replay of the life of Moses in the birth narrative of both Moses and Jesus. The situations are different, but the motif of being born and the king going to go after the deliverer of the people is what's happening. And so Moses escapes the attempt on his life as a child. Jesus escapes the attempt on his life as a child. So you've got a replay of that's going on there. And the Rachel crying for her children. What was the other one? Oh, yeah, the other one that's kind of interesting on some level is he will be called a Nazarene. There is no express subject of the third person. Oh, that's what they're going to do. There's no specific prophecy that Jesus was going to be a Nazarene. And also, coming from the town of Nazareth isn't the traditional way people would have seen being a Nazarene. Being a Nazarene would have been following a Nazarite vow. So the Nazarite vow would be you don't cut your hair and you don't have alcohol. And there's a couple other things, I don't remember all of them, that go into it. So Jesus clearly is not doing it from the Old Testament standard of upholding to a Nazarite vow, because he turns water into wine. He is drinking at the Last Supper. He drinks on a couple other occasions, potentially, depending on how you read the stories. And he's accused of dining with sinners and getting drunk with them. So there's those accusations. So he's not following the Nazarite vow circumstance of the Old Testament. So if you were to read the Old Testament and believe that the Messiah was to be someone who followed the Nazarite vow, Matthew has found a way to identify Jesus as a Nazarene, which would uphold those things if you were looking for him to be that. Which is also very funny, because I think it's Philip who was under the tree and says, "Can anything good come out of Nazareth?" So you've got some interesting things there. Judging by the difficulty, finding an Old Testament quote as implied in the plural prophets to match the words here, it appears that the author was using a current expression of scorn that conceptually, but not verbally, found its root in the Old Testament. So this is kind of like, as you begin to tell the stories and you put the motif together of who this person is, it starts to fill in a bunch of things. So, like, if you just take how Santa's mythology changes over time. Before Coca-Cola, there's no uniform situation that Santa is wearing red. That whole motif comes about from marketing from Coca-Cola, and Coca-Cola's color is red, so Santa wears red. Before that, you find Santa's wearing green outfits because elves were often in green. So you would have Santa postcards that you could find where he would be drawn in green and not in red. So